Hello, I'm Hannah, and welcome to my channel. If you're new to yoga and don't really know where to start, this is a great video for you to learn the 10 top poses for beginners. So I'm going to break down these 10 poses step by step so that you can learn these poses that appear pretty much in every yoga class you go to. And if you're looking to learn more or want to get personalized guidance, then I've got an upcoming live introductory beginners yoga session. It's happening on Wednesday, the 22nd of November at 7:30 p.m. UK time. So I'm going to include the link below if you want to sign up. Then come join me and you can learn the basics of yoga, and we'll also do a beginners yoga practice together. Let's get started. You don't need any equipment for these poses, but if you do have a yoga mat, that could be useful. If you don't have one yet, don't worry. You can always use an old towel or mat or something like that just to help with a little padding if you've got a hard floor. So we're going to start with a classic pose, number one pose, which is child's pose. So from this, you're going to, finding yourself in a kneeling position, if that works for you, you're going to peel the bum back towards those heels as you lower yourself down to the floor, and you're looking to bring your forehead down to the floor, bringing the hands palm facing upright. So don't worry if the bum lifts, it's quite normal. And if the forehead is kind of lifting up from the floor, then you can always just pop your hands underneath the forehead, either on fists or one on top of each other, just to bring the floor up to you. You could place a cushion or a block underneath instead of the hands, or you could also pop a cushion or blanket underneath the bum area or underneath the knees as well if you're feeling any niggles in this area. So this is pose number one, child's pose. It's a pose that we use to come back to our breath. So in this pose, you're just looking to create deep breaths and gently rising up. So that was pose number one. Now coming through to find an all fours position, so wrists underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. We're coming to pose two, which is cat pose. In this pose, we're looking to create an angry cat shape with our spine. So with those hands and wrists underneath the shoulders, you're going to press away with the hands, really press into them, keeping a little tiny little bend in the elbows rather than locking them out. And then you're rolling the shoulders, so you're creating this arch of the back, so like thinking like you're creating this angry cat. Bringing your stomach towards your spine, tucking the hips underneath. So see if you can bring that pelvis, those hips, see if you can tuck that bum underneath, and then bring your chin slightly towards your chest. Beautiful. This is our cat pose. And then our next pose, pose number three, is our cow pose. These two often work together. So from here, you're going to look to tilt the bum up, bring the belly towards the mat, bring the shoulder blades together, and slightly look towards the front of the mat. So this is your cow pose. And you can see it's kind of the opposite to that cat pose. So actually, you can often do them together. You can go into your cat and then your cow. And it's almost like you're rolling through the spine. So we've already covered three poses. Number four is a low lunge. So from here, you're just going to bring your right foot forward, bringing your knee above the ankle, shifting the hips forward until you feel a stretch down the front of that back thigh. Option to have the hands on the hips here, and tucking that tummy in slightly. If you'd like to, you can also look to extend the fingertips up to the sky. If you're doing so, just allow there to be a little space between the shoulders and the ears, so broaden those shoulders off a little bit. You can always bring the hands a little bit wider to create some space for that. Pressing through the whole of your front foot into the floor, and see if you can press the back knee into the floor for stability. Low lunge. Lowering yourself down. This is your opportunity to do it on the opposite side if you'd like. Otherwise, we're going to move through to our next pose, which is downward facing dog. So coming back to your all fours position, You're going to bring the hands a palm distance forward and slightly wider than shoulders, I would advise, especially if you have tightness in the shoulders. You're going to tuck the toes under, and then you're going to shift the hips. So it's really thinking about shifting the hips up and back. So you're moving the bum up towards the back of the room and keeping the legs bent, more bent than you think you should, perhaps. Often we want to try and force those heels down to the floor, but actually it's really about getting a nice straight spine. So shifting your weight back. Quite often I see people over here, so kind of semi into a little plank. But actually what we're trying to do is really shift the weight towards the back of the room, creating a nice long spine. Again, try not to lock out through the elbows, relaxing through the neck and shoulders. And from this position, you can always come back down to your child's pose at any time. So that was pose 5, downward facing dog. Moving now to pose number 6, mountain pose. Coming up to a standing position. So you're going to bring your feet so that they're shoulder distance apart, pressing the feet into the floor, a tiny little bend in the knees. Lovely. And then sucking that tummy in slightly, tiny little bit, just to engage the abdominal muscles slightly. You're going to roll the shoulders back, allowing the palms to face the front. Beautiful. And see if you can get a lovely straight spine. So imagine that you've got a puppet string going up from the very top of your head up to the ceiling, pulling you upright. Seeing as you're pressing your feet into the floor, bringing that puppet string up so you're really nice and extended in this lovely straight line. And from here you could close down the eyes. Just notice the weight in the feet. Hopefully you're finding that you can be nice and centered. If you need to adjust, you can always wiggle from side to side until you find that central point. So this is your mountain pose, which is a core position and a starting pose for a lot of different yoga sequences. Beautiful. Moving on to pose number 7 then, which is our forward fold. So from this, I'm going to show you to the side, actually, just so you can see. But we're really looking to hinge from the hips. And again, if you're working with your flexibility, then really thinking about bending through your knees here. So rather than kind of coming at it like you're trying to touch your toes to start with, what we're going to do is work with a really generous bend to the knee, which can help just take the strain off the lower back. So when you're ready, you're going to bring the arms up, inhaling up to the skies, taking a big deep breath in. And then hinging from the hips, lowering down. So you can see I'm going to do this slowly, hinging from the hips, coming down, allowing the tummy to come over. See if you can tuck your tummy in and bring the tummy towards the tops of the thighs. So those feet are hip distance apart. Generously bending those knees, adding that in if you haven't, and pressing through the heels. Seeing if you can bring those hips up. Upwards, so pushing them up and back. Once more. And when you're here, you might want to take a little nod or shake of the head just to release out the upper body. So most of us will be feeling it in the backs of the legs, but this is also an opportunity to kind of let go of your upper body. See if you can properly release it. Beautiful. To come out, you're going to gently press through the heels, tuck that tummy in, and really, really slowly roll yourself up. So taking your time and eventually rolling yourself up to the top of the mat, finding yourself back in your mountain pose. So we're coming on to our next pose now, which is our high lunge. For this, I need to bring your hands to your hips just to provide a little bit of extra stability. So we're still in our mountain pose to start with. And then when you're ready, you're going to step the left foot back, coming onto the toe, so bringing the heel up. And you can play with how short or long this stance is. So you can always take it a little bit easy, bring it a little bit further in. And then you're bending through that front knee. So I want the knee to be tracking in line with the ankle. So if that means you need to step a little bit further away, perhaps once you've got your confidence, see if you can do that. Lovely. Tucking that tummy in like we were doing in the low lunge. And then option to bring the arms up to the sky if you'd like to. Experiment and add a little bit of core strength in there. Otherwise, if you're working with your balance, keep the hands on the hips. Press through the whole of the front foot and press that back heel away. Beautiful. Stepping the back foot to meet the front. And then you would do the same thing on the opposite side. So finding that position, holding it for a few breaths, and then coming up. Now you're going to bring your feet a little bit wider and bringing the heels a little bit wider than your toes as we come to our ninth pose, wide-legged forward fold. So inhaling the arms up, and again hinging from the hips to come over, allowing yourself just to hang down. You might find that the legs are a little bit straighter in this, but you're welcome to bend those knees generously once more. You might find you have a little bit of more space. You can rock and roll those shoulders, nod and shake the head. Allow yourself to release through that upper body. Beautiful. When you're ready, you're going to come up the same way as we did on the other forward fold. So pressing into the heels, tucking the tummy in, and gently rolling yourself up to the top. So that was pose 9, wide-legged forward fold. And we're now going to move into our classic pose for relaxation, Shavasana or corpse pose. For this, you're going to come down onto your backs. So bringing the feet outstretched, rolling those shoulders back and down, and you are just allowing the feet to rest outwards wherever they are. So seeing if you can move them so they're maybe about hip distance apart, so we're not forcing them together, we're just allowing them to rest, and the feet naturally often want to rest outwards, so no strain there. See if again you can soften through the shoulders, if they're coming up towards your ears, see if you can broaden them off, and then bring the hands out so they are slightly away from your body and fingertips facing upwards. Looking to bring your chin towards your chest here to get a nice straight spine. So very similar to our mountain pose that we were doing standing up, we're creating a position of this length through the whole of our body, whole of our spine. If you feel any niggles in your lower back, then a bonus pose you can do is constructive rest pose. So you would bend the knees, bring them about mat distance apart or slightly wider than the hips if you're not using a mat, and gently bringing the knees in together. And this is a great alternative position if Shavasana corpse pose does not feel great for you. Here is where you would listen perhaps to a guided relaxation, perhaps using your breath. The teacher often guides you to find this position of stillness where you get to relax on your mat for a few minutes, normally at the end of a class. So they were my top 10 poses for beginners, which hopefully gave you a good breakdown of exactly how to do those 10 poses. And I hope to see you on the mat very soon. If you would like to join me for my live beginners introductory session on the 22nd of November, don't forget to check out the link in the box below. You can also hit subscribe to get notified on every new video that comes up in my channel. And I hope to practice with you very soon.